It was very difficult to prepare today's session, I must say. Not because, it's difficult to know what needs to be discussed, but more to really ask the question, where do we start? So that basically was the difficulty that I had. So starting the session was very difficult because we needed to know where to start and how to start. So for that reason, we thought we will start with the platform where it's about report writing. Now, when you're going to write a report, a research report, is the most involved. Okay, let me do this. It's a very difficult process, but it's also an easy process. It's easy if you have been doing the process from the beginning to the end, because what the report means is that you are documenting all the steps and all the events that you have covered in the period that you were meant to cover them. So that can be the easy part, but that can also be the difficult part. So it depends. But remember, we're also going to be looking at it from a point of approach that you have followed. Was your study qualitative or quantitative? So those steps needs to be summarized in that way. So if you are doing qualitative, you will then demonstrate in the report that this is how your report, your topic, your units of analysis, and your independent variables, all those issues need to be put together in a report format, so that because the reading of the report is really the summary of everything else and the journey that you have undertaken as a researcher. So you can imagine your difficulty that you went through with the quantitative development of the questionnaire, analyzing of those questions and getting the answers and making sense of all of them. That's basically what we are about to discuss today. Now, the report, as I said, is the culmination of all those steps and events and situations that you found yourself in. It can be very, very involved. And please remember, this is where you really get, do the best of the work that you've been doing throughout the journey of your research. So a research project is not complete unless and until you have now done the research report. So basically today what we'll try to do, and again, I want us to talk more because really it's about you writing the report, but there are principles that we will share. However, I just want you to remember that last week we were talking about an abstract. So an abstract was a summary of the totality of your report. Now, today we are talking about the full report. So meaning we are now blowing that abstract into a full report. That's basically what we are doing today. I want us to talk about a real report, a research report which summarizes or which details the abstract. Last week we spent a lot of time discussing an abstract, which basically was me trying to say to you, an abstract is a summary of 200 to 350 or 500 words, which then summarizes the whole Madlanga Commission. So today I want us to now try to blow the report a little bit more from the beginning to the end. So I'm going to pick on some of us here so we can at least share a full report. But I want to hear in the report, using the abstract, the elements that will have to be part of your report. I see we have Noktula is just gone. I was just about to pick here on this one. Senyane, have we met before?
No, we've never spoken before. Unfortunately, I'm just one of those unlucky people who only got her topic and supervisor approved last month. So I'm still far behind.
That's great, actually. No, you are far ahead. There's a lot of students who, throughout the discussion, they had supervisor issues. So you may find that you are one of the few lucky ones.
I hope so. So I really don't have much to share. I have done my draft. I have sent it to my supervisor to look at it. And then, yeah, but so far, I don't think it's anything that I can share. I'm still
No,
not being
there's a lot.
confident.
No, remember what I want is when you share with me the proposal, share with me as a report.
Okay.
So basically, I want you to say, you said you have submitted your proposal, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
start
but
start at the beginning of a proposal, right?
okay.
And take me through, and as you speak, we will be writing the research report. Because you say in the future, this is what you're going to do, but in the report, it will come across like this is what you have done. Remember? Remember the difference between a proposal and a report is, with a
Yes.
report is your plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is what my hypothesis is going to be. This is what my population is. All those are you're projecting in the future. Now a report would say, this is what you have said. This was your proposal. How much of this proposal have you done? And now you are sharing with us in details. Plus, you also have other observations that you picked up on the way, which may not necessarily have been part of your proposal, but is part of the observations that you picked up as a researcher. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, yes, you are. However, I don't know if I'm the correct target market because I'm doing the 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 coursework. I'm doing the
Yes.
coursework. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm doing the LLM coursework. So mine is a mini dissertation.
I want you to report give me a report on your mini dissertation.
Okay.
You're so right as a target market. You're appropriate. There's a lot of us on this platform. Just that today maybe we are fewer.
Okay.
Yeah. What I want is just to take us through your proposal in some level of details, if that's fine. But we, in our back of our mind, we are writing the report as we're asking you questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not confident though, but remember, I've just started this 4 weeks ago. And so at the beginning, after my supervisor was appointed, she said to me that my research proposal is basically should be the first chapter of what my research is going to be. But when I looked at the tutorial letter, it just kind of outlined what the subheadings should be. Not the subheading, but the structure, if I should put it that way. So I was following the research. I mean, I was following the tutorial letter in terms of breaking down how I'm going to be doing my research. So I don't know if I should start with what is going to entail and the topic. Should I start there?
Yes. You should start, start exactly at that point.
Okay.
But don't worry about confidence. We'll build it just now.
Okay. My topic is balancing the best interests. I'm doing family law. My topic is balancing the best interests of the child in terms of Section 7 of the South African Children's Act with the requirements of the Hague Convention on International Child Abduction.
Repeat that.
Balancing the best interests of the child in terms of Section 7 of the South African Children's Act.
Yeah.
With the requirements of the Hague Convention on Child Abduction.
What do you mean you are balancing them?
Yeah, because in most instances, the courts are actually conflicted between whether they should look at our domestic law, which prioritizes the best interest of the child, and even the Constitution state that the best interest of the child should be of paramount consideration in all matters where the child is involved.
No, and what I mean is, what I'm trying to ask is, what are you going to do if you say you're balancing the best interest of the child with the requirements of the what exactly do you mean there?
Okay, how can the court strike a balance between domestic law, which requires that the best interest of the child should be of paramount importance, with the Hague Convention, which is strictly saying the child must be returned. It's a what is the right word that I'm looking for?
I think I do. We all do understand
Understand it.
the two variables, the Hague what do you call it? The Hague rule or convention, and in the best interest of the child. My question is, from a research point of view, what are you doing with the two? What is it that you are doing when you say you are balancing them? What exactly should we look at?
Okay. My intention is to look at how our courts can still protect the best interest of the child without neglecting their treaty obligations.
Okay, that looking into, what do you call that? What that is a research part that you're doing. What is that you're doing? So you look at, this is the child, the best interest of the child. These are the Hague Convention, and they must both be done. So I'm saying, what is that verb, what is that research empirical study that you're doing there? Because you'll have those two. Here is the child, the best interest of the child obligations, and here is the Hague conventions. Maybe they are not even at conflict with each other. Maybe they are. But when you balance them, what exactly are you doing? I'm looking at the research doing word verb there.
Which is balancing.
Yeah, but how do you do that balancing? How, if I come to you now and say, yeah, you have now done the balancing, what should I look at?
Yeah, that's a very difficult one.
So in other words, if you have, the outcome of your study is, yeah, now I can tell you that there is now a balancing between the best interest of the child and the Hague Convention. What must I look at, or what is it that I should look into, that now I can see there is balance or there's no balance? What is it that, am I confusing you?
Not really. Okay, what you should look at is, did our court, as required by our legislation, protect the best interest of the child? At the same time, still, complying with the treaty obligation.
Yes, but what would I be looking at? Your research will be doing what? In other words, when I go and I say, okay, here is a child, here is the Hague Conventions. I want to see if the court has done its work to balance this. I mean, to balance the rights of the child and the Hague Convention. And I'm there in court. What must I look? What is it that you'll be looking at that you'd say, okay, now I know there is balance, or now I know there's no balance?
Was the best interest of the child given the paramountcy? That's basically what I would expect someone to look at.
Okay. And that question, when you ask it, what do you as a researcher, what are you looking at?
I am looking at our courts protecting the best interest of the child as required by domestic law, as well, and at the same time, fulfilling their treaty obligations.
Yes, how is the looking into that I'm interested in? How do you do the looking? There's two instruments here, Sinyani, that you're talking to. You're talking to the instrument that says the best interest of the child must be protected.
Yes.
And the Hague also, as an international instrument, must be, sort of complied with.
Yes.
So I'm saying those two I can understand. We can all understand. What we are asking you is, as a researcher, what then do you do to do the balance? If you say you're going to do balancing, and I'm an outsider, and I'll ask you, how did you do it? Is there balancing or no balancing? You are the one who's going to tell us what instrument you are using. So I'm looking at you as a researcher. I'm looking at the verb, the doing, because balancing, I don't know what tools would you be using to do balancing. Okay.
Maybe I'm okay. Maybe
Yeah, maybe let's do this. Let me check if you have to you have your research must say something in the doing part, because if you say I'll be looking at that, you in research you don't look into something, because that sounds so easy, like okay, you're just gonna walk into court, and you can't do that. You have to have an empirical investigation, a proper investigation that says, yeah, now you're at the point where you can tell us there is a balance or there's no balance. So that's what I'm looking at. Maybe let me check with Mashoko. Maybe Mashoko may come up with a way to help me in understanding these variables, the best interest of the child and the Hague Convention, that balancing. You've been hearing my little battle with Sinyan. I do understand the two situations that she's dealing with, the best interest of the child and the Hague Convention, that balancing. So I'm looking for what is it that is the way she's doing. Remember, we're still at the very beginning, at the topic level. Yeah, what verb do you think we should insert the looking into?
Good evening, Prof, and to all the fellow students. Yes, of
Good
course,
evening.
I have been listening.
Yeah, it's your turn today to assist someone. I want to know, there is here a project, a work that we are presented with. I'm sure you've been hearing my line of inquiry with Senyane, that she is going to be looking into, and is that looking into that we are looking to phrase it within a research lexicon or jargon, if you like. Well, how can we put it? I don't think it's comparison per se. I don't think she's going to be doing comparison. Not really. What does it come across to you as?
Yeah, thank you, Prof. As I've heard there, she mentioned the fact of balancing the competing interest of the South African Children's Act with the international source, which is I think the Hague Convention. I assume our country, it might be a signatory to that instrument. So I think the point of departure will be to look into what this Hague Convention says in terms of the children's rights. Is it in conflict with our Domestic Children's Act, or does it supplement what it states?
Yes, but what is the how must she phrase it as a topic? Because she says she's going to look into, and I'm saying is the looking into that I've got a difficulty with from a research point of view. Baloy from Dubai, we need to look at a point where Senyana doesn't look into, but there's two things that we are now clear about. There's no dispute about them. It's a very great work to do. The best interest of the child and the Hague Convention, the balancing part. What do you suggest we could put as a verb for her, or a research concept?
Good evening, Prof. Good evening, fellow students, and our convener, Mr. Mpafut Dagalan.
Good evening.
Hey, Doc, I was trying to grab something from what does the Hague Convention, which she is going to zoom into, says. Is it the Hague Convention on the what is it, against abduction of kids? Because if that's the case, then it will mean I would look at what are the best interests of the children.
It's the looking. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the look into that I want you to phrase.
Yeah,
the Hague Convention is fine. The best interest of the child is fine as variables. I'm happy with them. What I'm asking is, what does the look into mean? Which is what you want to replace.
I would do a comparative analysis of the South African Convention framework or the rights of children in terms of South African law. That will be looking into obviously the Constitution. I think we also have the Children's Act, and also what does
how about the assessment?
Yes.
How about Sinyan, how about an assessment of because you are assessing the best interest of the child in the context of whether or not there are issues that are of concern based on the Hague Convention and the fact that they are domesticated, here. But isn't that something that you are looking into?
Mute myself. Okay. Basically,
in research, when you say you are going to look into something, it's pedestrian, it's not good enough. But if you say
I do understand.
But if you say if you're saying my investigation it's going to be an assessment of or compare, you are using words that are more research strong. That's basically what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, I do understand. Okay, so let's say for argument's sake that I have to relook at the topic, particularly what you're raising, Prof, the balancing, which is going to be okay.
You can assess the balance or the balancing between the best interest of the child, South Africa's best interest of the child, whatever convention, with the Hague Convention. You see what you are doing there? You are basically saying, using you are taking two variables and you are doing an assessment on them, because you're moving from an assumption, which is an hypothesis that says it looks like the two there's no balance.
Yes.
Now, you see, that's your assumption. So now you're saying, I want to check if there is balance, and if there is balance, how much of it is a balance? I mean, what is the level that it should be balanced? Is it 100%? Is it altogether 90%? Whatever the case might be. So basically, you'll be looking at how much of the best interest of the child and the Hague are being applied through our courts. So that's why I'm talking about an assessment, because you can't say I'm going to. You are going to look into them, but the looking into them is like you're going. You see, because you're not just a layman. You are now going to look into them from a research point of view. Am I right?
Yes, and proposing workable solutions.
Correct. So that's why I'm saying you need a word. Just look for an appropriate word, which will. I'm saying for now we can try to. We might be 100% wrong, but all I'm saying is that if you are going to assess the extent to which the best interest of the child is in the Hague, there's balance. You're assessing. You're doing there's something that you are conducting there. You're doing something.
Yes, that's actually what I'm going to be doing. I think maybe the balancing is the problem there.
Yeah, it's just the looking into it, because once you see that this must be done, this is what must happen. The children must be protected, their rights, and the Hague, where there are no conflict, they must be done. You are then able to come in and say, I have done this assessment, and this is the outcome of my assessment insofar as these two variables are concerned. That makes some sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Go ahead there, Godfrey.
Thank you, Prof. Just to add just a bit in terms of what you are explaining, just to add on it, I think I do agree with what you're saying. For example, she can have, in terms of on a topic, she can just adjust it a bit. And for example, having like South Africans' duties to uphold the best interests of the child under international law, or compliance with international standards, but specifically choose whatever treaty she wants to speak about. But when she specifically saying under international law, it gives her actually a broader explanation in terms of speaking about different treaties. Because if ever, for example, she goes directly to want to choose one, it limits his explanation. Now, I'm just thinking, but if ever she says under international law, she's able to speak about whatever specific treaty she wants to choose and broaden the explanation in terms of even SADC, in terms of what they have in SADC or what they have in terms of different treaties in Africa and around the world. So when he says international law, it gives actually a broader explanation in terms of those different treaties, because we have those different treaties that may touch a bit in terms of that specific topic or whatever rights she wants to address in terms of best interest of the child. So I'm thinking if ever is either she can say specifically around whatever treaty or under international law, the compliance of South Africa, then she's able to broaden the explanation and compare in terms of different treaties that she can choose around comparing how they align in terms of best interests of the child. I submit, Prof.
Thanks, Godfrey. So basic, yeah, maybe point taken. And we're still at the beginning of it, Senyane. So there is an opportunity, obviously working with your supervisor, your promoter, to amend the topic. I mean, the topic is not, it doesn't start and end at the point of submission. It could be an improvement, because at the end of the day, you want a topic that is going to stay for as long as it is relevant for some time to come. So yes, that's a submission. The point that you have made us understand, and again, I want to work with you on this one and with the team that are speaking right now, is that you are going to be assessing the best interest of the children or the child, and you're going to do that particularly looking into this instrument that you have already identified. So that's your assessment in essence. Can we agree at least on that?
Yes.
Okay. Now that we know you will be doing the assessment, and for me, I was also interested in you using the word assessment, but please feel free to use another appropriate word later on, but it's just an assessment. Now,
Okay.
I want you to hear.
Can I just ask, Prof, before you move on? So now, because the topic was already submitted and approved, so it means I'll have to rephrase the topic?
No, you don't have to redo it. At the point, once your supervisor has given you feedback and you are now resubmitting based on the feedback, you could engage. There's nothing wrong in work. Remember, there is a mini dissertation, so it's not like you're going to go out there and do proper research. So yes. It's, for me, it's just for you to understand what your topic is about, even if you are not going to resubmit now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just for your understanding, for your own research, to say, okay, this is what my research is, and this is what I want to do. And I think we have already established from our this short conversation that yes, that's what you want to do. In terms of your plan, right?
Yes.
And you have confirmed. You can add. You are confirming that your hypothesis. When we talk about the hypothesis here, we have tried to use simple word like an assumption. Your assumption is that as things stand, there are maybe, I don't know the extent to which it is the problem, but you are saying there is situations where there is no balance between the Children's Act and the conventions that the courts are looking into. Can you speak to that a little bit? Maybe from a hypothesis or from your assumption point of view.
Okay. The Hague Convention is very procedural. It requires that the signatory countries should immediately, promptly, that's the word they actually used in the act, in the kind of convention.
You mustn't use the word immediately, because I was listening to people in parliament defining immediately, and they said immediately doesn't mean now.
Okay, now I guess I was.
So I hope
I was correcting myself and saying.
I hope the head didn't use that word, because both General Sibia and Mr. Mkunu are saying, well, immediately is actually not as in now. which is a
Okay.
very interesting discovery. But sorry,
Yeah,
I interjected you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was rephrasing that sentence to say the convention actually uses the word promptly. The convention uses the word promptly. It says that, the child that has been abducted into a signatory country, if all the conditions have been met, the child must promptly be returned to the habitual place of residence where the child was abducted. So in the nutshell, that sometimes we see in our courts that there's a bit of a conflict, because basically if the matter has to be heard, the presiding judge should not even go into the merits of the case regarding issues of custody and other things. They just need to comply with the convention and return the child. All the other issues must be addressed in the jurisdiction of the child where he or she is going to be returned. At the same time, we have here our Children's Act, which says, and the Constitution, of course, which says the best interest of the child must be of paramount consideration. So that sometimes creates a little bit of conflict between our domestic law and the convention.
Or in which sense?
In the sense that the convention
says
doesn't want
don't even get into the merit of the
don't
matter.
even get into the merit, promptly return the child to the jurisdiction. And yeah, so that's where the conflict is. Yes.
Oh, I see. So you are saying because our constitution would say, but what would the constitution then say? Or what is our domestic law say?
Our domestic law says the best interest of the child is of paramount consideration. Let's say for argument's sake that the child says she doesn't want to go back, or he doesn't want to go back.
I see.
Yes, and then the court sometimes it's tempted to tap into further investigating why is this child not wanting to go back. And basically when they're not even supposed to go into that arena where they do a further investigation of why is this child not wanting to go back, or why do we think it is not in the child's best interest to go back?
Yeah.
They're not supposed
I
to go
see.
back.
So you sort of sensing potential conflict there of policy.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So there's a possible conflict in that the best interest of the child might say you are not going to take this child to the country where she comes from, even if the Hague might say do that and don't even get into the merit and the demerit of the case.
Yes.
I see. It's a very that's your one of the example you are using. It's very.
Yes.
I think it's a very interesting then policy, because you are saying potentially there's a conflictual relationship in that regard.
Yes, and we've seen a lot of decided cases where some judges went into the merits of the case and looked into the child having to be assessed, and either by psychologists or by social worker, to determine the reason why is this child not wanting to go back. And then it takes a different turn altogether. It leaves the convention behind.
Yes. So yeah, that's another element. So which means the national domestic legislation will take precedence over the Hague now convention.
In some instances,
insofar as the child, insofar as the matter of the child is concerned.
Yes, because that's what our law says. You
have given us now the problem, the nature of the problem, and why the investigation was or is important. Remember, we are writing a report.
Yes.
So now I know the problem because you have characterized it for us in the report, and I understand the hypothesis that says your assumption is that there seems to be some policy conflict between internal laws or domestic laws with the Hague insofar as the best interest of the child is concerned. I get that. What is your... So what does literature say? Like when you read other sources and other work done, what are we getting?
There's quite there's quite conflicting views. Others are saying there's also what they call the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which also protects the rights of the child.
Okay.
And why should we not look into the interest of the child and prioritize only the convention? But at the same time, we have the convention saying, we will look into the interest of the child in inverted commas, provided there are some maybe some risk factors that are flagged.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes there will be those defenses where, let's say, the abducting parent says, we ran away from this domestic man or this domestic violent woman, and so those will be raised under, the convention. But then sometimes those risk factors are non-existent. So there's different literature in terms of those cases where there are risk factors and those cases where there are no risk factors.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense to me. So that's what you are picking up as you read about the subject, that maybe they are also at an international level. There are also, some areas of concerns. Would you say, and this is just on the literature review, would you say this is uniquely a South African problem, but it's also a problem for some of those countries that are signatories to The Hague?
I have not dwelled much into a comparative analysis, but I'm going to pick one jurisdiction or two, maybe Australia, Canada, and look at how they apply the convention vis-a-vis their domestic law.
Okay.
But I haven't really dwelled into how they deal with this aspect. I'm still going to do that.
So, but what do you think?
I think they apply the convention strictly, and they don't really look into the best interest of the child in their domestic law.
Oh, I see.
From the little that I have learned from one or two cases that I read.
Yeah, that's fine. So let's move into. I don't want to ask you a difficult question, but what are some of the key words?
I'm just a newbie.
What are some of the key words that you are using when you do your search for literature? Are there any?
No.
Like keywords, as in when you search, what are you searching for let's say when you do the search for your literature, what do you use?
Do
you, I mean, you've done literature review, haven't you? Literature,
really.
You've done some readings from other sources, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm asking as to.
Okay.
How did you identify?
What I normally look into is, how to harmonize the domestic law with the convention.
Yes, but what I'm looking for is, you see, when you are going to search something, you've got some keywords that you'll use.
Yes.
So I'm saying, what kind of keywords did you have?
I look at harmonizing. I don't know if it's the right word.
Okay, yes, harmonizing what?
Our domestic law with the international treaty.
Oh, so you'll have like harmonization of the law?
Yes.
So harmonization means what?
Meaning harmonization, meaning that how can we make sure that we still respect our international obligation without compromising our domestic law?
Okay. You didn't have anything on, let's say, a child rights, because a child needs to be defined as well, like rights, all that kind of things.
No.
But how did you do literature review then? Because my interest is on the reading. When you are going to read something, you have a search. You have to search for some material.
Okay, I think maybe because my research is going to be confined to the Children's Act and the Constitution. And the Children's Act it has a very extensive section on the best interest of the child.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is, if I say to you, your smartphone now,
or the best, or my operative word is the best interest of the child.
Oh, it will be the best interest. Okay, you'll have best interest of the child.
Yes.
What else? Those can be your, well, you call them operative word. We call them keywords in research.
Keywords. Okay.
Yeah, because we want the words that will lead us into searching for something.
Yes.
So you'll have a list of ways that will say, I'm looking for this. So I'll go for best interest of the child. I look for the Hague. I'll look for, maybe those are the keywords that you're using to lead me to do the same search as you have done.
Oh, yes.
Because remember, in research, it's about following you so I can come to the same result. So keywords are also giving us opportunity for repeatability, reproducibility, which is a very great principle in research. I must follow you and come to the same conclusion.
Okay.
So you may want to note some keywords such as best interest of the child, because I'm sure in your literature you probably defined who a child is, isn't it?
Come again, Prof.
I'm saying I suspect that even in your literature you did define who a child is, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and when you define who a child is, you are using different sources.
Yes.
So in this context, what is a child?
In our domestic law, a child is anyone who is below the age of 18.
Okay. And then when you use the Hague, what is it?
The Hague Convention applies to anyone who is below the age of 16.
Okay, so with us is up to 18, with the Hague is up to 16.
Yes.
You see, that's what literature is telling you, and that's very important in the context of your study. Yes. So you see, that's what we are talking about when you say some key words, because they are very important. Okay, please proceed. Proceed to tell me how is it in terms of the approach. Now we want to go into the methodology. In terms of the approach, what is it? Qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods?
My approach is going to be qualitative.
Qualitative.
Yes.
Why do you say so? And you're probably correct, by the way.
I don't know why.
No, you are not. I think you are not going to work with a big, large number. You are not going to be using a large number of people that you are going to talk to. So your population, your sample is not going to be big, isn't it?
No, it's not.
So you're probably just going to be using, few of the sources that you are using, and you might not even interview people.
I might not even interview people at all.
Okay. So you see, when we talk about qualitative and quantitative, one of the differences between qualitative and quantitative is how big your sample is going to be. Now, from what I'm hearing is that you may not even go for a big sample. You might just use the records that are there, because you're just going to be looking at the legislation.
And case study and case law.
Yes, and some of the decided cases on this. So that's enough. So it is therefore, in my view, qualitative. Are you getting something from this, Sinyane?
Am I?
Are you getting some useful
I am. I'm writing notes. I'm writing notes. Yes.
No, we are also doing the same. We just don't want to find ourselves benefiting and you not benefiting.
I just feel that I'm put on the spot because this is the first time I'm joining, and this is what's happening to me.
And you're doing well. Now the good news is, now that we know it's qualitative, let's talk about the population. When you look at the population, is that if you look at the best interest of the child, when was it? How long has it been? And when is the Hague? In other words, is there a time period on this or not?
The Hague was actually the Children's Act is fairly new. It's act. Let me just quickly check. I think it was promulgated in 2005. Where am I now? I'll just tell you now. It's 2005. The Children's Act is fairly new. It was promulgated in 2005, and the Hague 1980.
Oh, okay. So so now you're comparing periods. I mean, there's a 1980 and 2005. Is it when the best interest of the child was promulgated, you say?
The Children's Act was promulgated incorporating the best interest of the child. That was in 2005.
So the incorporation of but how long has the best interest of the child been?
It has always been there, but it was in case law.
Okay.
It was not. Yes, it was in case law.
So your population is going to be some case laws, some Hague in 1980s, and then the children the Act in 2005.
Yes.
Okay, so you are looking at those as your period. You see, that's your timeline. That's basically your population.
Okay.
So you'll be looking at when was the best interest of the child being pronounced and maybe not necessarily being legislated, and what was the situation at the time, and then you look at the Hague separately, and then you look at why was then the incorporation of the best interest of the child got legislated. Is there some theoretical discussion about that? Why was it being legislated? Was it legislated in recognition of the Hague, or it was what is it like? What is the
best interest of the child standards? I'll refer to this the standards because it's a long list of what is it that one should look into when they considering the best interest of the child.
Yeah,
it was in case law. It was never in an act. So when the Children's Act was passed in 2005, those best interest standards were incorporated into the Children's Act. There's a specific section.
I'm saying what was the rationale for that?
The rationale for incorporating it into the Act.
Yes. You don't have to answer now, but that's part of the theory that you need to build to why it was done, because you need to sort of explain the best interest of the. I mean, it was there all along.
Yes.
And it was not legislated. The Hague was in the 80s, and now the Act only incorporated in 2005. It's a period that I'm inquisitive about it.
Okay.
So you can build a discussion around that as well.
Okay.
Because it simply means someone might have been now awake to the reality that there's a need to incorporate the children's rights.
Yes.
In the best interest of the child into the Act, and why was it not incorporated all along? That's a question that you may want to answer, or it might just be an argument that shows that there has always been that gap that was not being attended to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just note. I see Happy has a comment to make. Happy, go ahead. We're writing a research report here.
I just wanted to give my view, on the enactment part of the Children's Act. I think it was enacted to give effect to the Constitution, because when you look at Section 28 of the Constitution, it also talks about the children's rights, where it also addresses the fact that the child's rights are of paramount importance in Section 28 of the Constitution. So I think when one considers the two sources, the domestic law and international, the Constitution will obviously take precedence, because it also states that the Constitution is the supreme law of the country, and then everything that is inconsistent with it is invalid. But at the same time, it states that when interpreting the Bill of Rights, the court must consider international law, But according to my view, the Constitution always takes precedence in the event of a conflict.
Okay, so you are saying amongst others the reason why it was now incorporated in the legislation was to give effect to the provision of the Constitution.
Yes, Section 28 of the Constitution. If you look at Section 28 of the Constitution, it talks about the children's right, of which the child's right paramount important. It's also a part of this clause.
Oh, okay. It makes sense. But why did it take so long?
Why did it take so long?
Yes, isn't the Constitution older than the Child Act that she's talking about is 2004, she said.
No, the Constitution is most of 1996.
Yes. I'm saying the children's, the incorporation is only in 2004. I'm just asking this, it's a rhetorical question.
Yes, the Children's Act came after the coming into effect of the current Constitution.
I
As
agree,
I'm
but I'm
saying,
saying why did it take so long? The Constitution is older, it's long, but we only now in 2004 incorporated the fact that those provisions of the Constitution to this legislation.
Yes, I do understand you, Prof, on that part, but remember, there is lots of legislation that had to be enacted after the Constitution to give effect to a number of provisions in the Constitution.
Yes,
it's not only the only act that was required.
This is the point that I was asking Senyane to say. She needs to just figure out. The Hague is in the 80s. The Children's Act has always been as old. The interest of the child convention is older. But now, only in 2004 did we consider the best interest of the child. So as a generic question, I'm just asking this inquisitive question to say, why did it take this long? You are saying, well, I must remember that there's still other laws. Is that maybe that's the reason? Maybe that is actually remember, she's doing research in this context.
Yes.
So she can give an accurate, explicit explanation on the incorporation, because she said the incorporation happened only in 2004, which I'm not going to argue. But I'm saying, why only in 2004? If you say, well, given what we know in terms of the promulgations and the processes, this is not long. Maybe that will be the argument. But for now, I'm saying, why did it take this long? So that's the point we're trying to advise her to look into, just to add to the literature review and the argument in that regard.
To answer that question, Prof, I'm not sure, but I think there might have been another legislation that uses to address the rights of children before the Children's Act. I'm not sure, but I just assume I haven't done research in that part. But I think maybe there was a legislation that was in existence before the coming into effect of this 2005 Children's Act. Maybe they realized that it was not adequately addressing the rights of children in accordance with the current constitution or this dispensation.
Yes, but remember, yes, maybe I'm not clarifying myself happy. All I'm saying is, when you do your literature review, all those arguments, pro, against, for, and contradictions, you raise them in the literature review, isn't it?
Yes.
So that when somebody reads what you are about to investigate, they actually can see that you have done a lot of work when you are conducting literature review on those contradictions, those questions that you are asking, and then you answer them through that literature review discussion. Of course, you may not answer all of them, but the ones that we are raising them to say, please think about them, consider them, work around them. Senyane, you're still good. I see Baloyi as a hand. We are now on the population, and you have told us that you'll be looking at the Hague, the best interest of the child, and the 2004 Children's Act. Go ahead, Baloyi.
Yeah, I wanted to chip in Baba,
Sorry,
Baba, I'm muted? Can you hear me, Prof?
yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah, so I wanted to chip in on the some of the issues which we're raising. Why the Children's Act to say, of course, it was to give full effect to what they, and then you were asking why it took time.
Yeah,
I think so. So I think that will speak to the historical background of, okay, right, what did we have before, and what was the gap which this act was trying to plug. For an example,
sure.
like the issue which Madam is raising of the best interest of the children were not incorporated. Were in the previous act. I can't even remember what that one was, but this one was to plug in that gap which was there and to make it to be in line with some of the international treaties and stuff like that. So as to give full effect, basically.
You see, that's helpful, because what you're also adding, both you and Happy are, there are rationale that needs to be built into this discussion. Amongst others is, what gap was the Children's Act closing? And here it is that it was incorporation, which is what Senyano was arguing, that it was really to incorporate the best interest of the child, so that it can be taken care of, which is protect the rights of the child. And that's great, because then that historical assessment of what was it before, what is it now, and now you see, when she's then going to assess, because that's what she's going to do, she's going to do an assessment of whether or not now there is a proper balance. Then it makes even more sense than we can imagine. So I think that is helping in the discussion that we are having. Hopefully, Senyani, we have not lost you from this debate.
No, I'm not lost at all. Actually, I wanted to say that, both the gentlemen who spoke are absolutely spot on. This act was to close the gap that was left by the previous act, which was the Child Care Act. The Child Care Act was there, but it didn't say anything about the best interest of the child. So the Children's Act then came into effect to cover that gap.
Oh, I'm glad. Glad. So now when we talk about sampling, you are saying to me that you're going to use some cases. Maybe your expression was you're going to rely on case laws, right?
Yes.
So those case laws, you are going to draw them from? Where are you going to draw those case laws from, Senyane? Because now you say, look, there are a lot of issues to consider, especially if you look at the Hague has been in operation. When did South Africa become a member of the Hague? You've got Balo here, in case there is a question that we cannot answer at the international relations. When did South Africa become a signatory? Do you know?
I'm trying to see my notes here now.
But is it recent, or is in those early?
It was during those. I think
so
it was
they did become a signatory at the Hague, but were they before the best interest of the child? Were they employing or applying the Hague as far as you are concerned, although there was no issue with the best interest of the child? So in a case where you are just demonstrating a scenario, you said with the Hague, if there is an issue with the child, you don't even have to think twice. You just take that child back to the country of origin. Was it happening in South Africa then, or do we know?
It was happening in South Africa then, but I think back then even the court was still tapping into the very old case law, which is the case law that actually stipulated the best interest. It's a very old case. So the courts were almost always stepping into that decision. But it looks like now they are moving away from that.
Are they moving away from that because of the issue of the best interest of the child
yes,
and the Constitution?
I assume so.
but will there look, and I don't want to argue your findings yet. Is it your view then that if you look at case laws before 2004, which is your assessment, they were applying the Hague Convention?
Yes, they were applying the Hague.
So you will be able to get data on that from the court situation.
Yes. I have a lot of case law that is
that's your population out there. So in other words, your population is going to be, I'm looking for cases between the signing date of the Hague Convention and the period before the pronouncement or the promulgation of the Child Act with the best interest of the legislation which incorporated the best interest of the child, right?
Yes.
Now you look at that and you say, how were they applying how was the court applying itself to those conventions, to that convention at the time? Because now you've raised a comparative argument. You are saying it looks like if you look at those case laws before, they were doing it and they were relying on those old cases.
Yes.
That's an argument, a solid research argument. The second part then is you saying, however, after the promulgation of the best interest of the child legislation that has incorporated that, the court seems not to be applying the Hague Convention as much as or as extensively as they were doing before the best interest of the child or and so on. Yes. Right? Are you not then comparing periods here? You are.
I am.
You are comparing periods that says before the convention, before the act, you had no difficulty in applying the Hague. So as a country, you were guided by that. Now it then means this legislation, when it was being applied, when it was promulgated, it seems to have sort of interrupted the way in which the country was applying the Hague Convention, because now they are being guided by the national legislation. Yes. It could have been then the understanding of the court that perhaps in the absence of the best interest of the child, then the convention was the guideline.
Yes.
So when you are then doing developing this legislation, this policy on best interest of the child, do you think they have thoroughly looked into those cases to a point where they looked at how the best interest of the child is going to conflict with the convention? Do you think that may have been the consideration?
No. It was purely on our on how do we apply it on our domestic ground.
Yeah. And maybe then the issue could have been that they did not necessarily thoroughly looked into the Hague, and therefore, had they looked at how they were dealt with previously, they could have come up with a balance between the two. That's your argument.
Yes.
They could have created a balance where they would say, yes, we will still look at the best interest of the child, but also taking the child to the place, to where they come from could be, the Hague rules could still apply in this context or that context.
Yes, I agree.
But it sounds to me then from and again we are still debating the population, the sampling, but it sounds to me, Senyane, that is it more the child coming from outside the jurisdiction, or even those child that are within the country?
It's you mean the best interest principle? Oh,
yeah, if I can, it's all children.
Oh, the best interest principle applies to all children.
And then the Hague?
The Hague doesn't say anything about the best interest of the child. So that's where that's where I see the conflict.
Sorry. What I meant was, is the Hague specific on whether or not the child is coming from the jurisdiction, or is it also all children, both in and outside the jurisdiction?
The Hague will be only for the children that have been abducted into the country from
Yeah, so it
different
might
from
be
different from
it might be
another
a child
signi-
abducted from Asia
from
into
a,
South Africa.
yes.
But will the best interest principle in such a case, how does it apply in a foreign? I'm looking at a child coming from foreign jurisdiction.
Yes. In most instances, if I can just slightly create a picture, it will
Yeah.
be probably a parent who is fleeing from that jurisdiction to come here. Let's say I'm married to some man in Canada and I'm not happy
Yeah.
there, and I run from Canada, I come here. Then the
Yeah.
best interest of the child in terms of our law. I'm not sure if maybe I'm missing the question, because it's the Hague Convention is purely on child abduction.
Oh, it only works under cases of
Child
abduction.
abduction. Yes.
So in that case, the Canada husband can report abduction.
Yes.
And
then they will
in
report
case
it
of
to
abduction, and then he reports to court, then you will be the interest of the child will not apply in that context, because the abduction, it will be the Hague, and therefore the child must be returned to Canada.
Absolutely.
So at what point then do you invoke the best interest of the child? Can you invoke it within an abduction situation as it is on the best interest?
You see, that's what
that's what you are looking into.
That's what I'm going to zoom into. Our legislation says the best interest of the child must be of paramount consideration. At the same time, we are looking here at a child who's been abducted into this country, and the convention says the child must go back. Don't look into whether the child is happy or not happy. Just the child must just go back. The best interest should not apply. But we here, we are saying South Africa, our constitution, section 28 says the child's interest must be of paramount consideration. How we just peg this child back, it's against what we stand for.
But then your assessment should be specific then, in the sense that you need to say best interest. Is it not best interest, or the situation that you are going to assess insofar as cases of abduction are concerned, so that you don't look at the best interest not against abduction, because that's what Hague Convention will be looking into. So in other words, why don't you compare the Hague on abduction cases as per the child legislation, the best interest insofar as abduction is concerned? Then you're comparing similar circumstances.
Yes, that's what my topic is. It's going to be looked into.
Oh, so you will be say with particular, you will be looking at with particular reference to
the requirements of the Hague Convention on Child Abduction.
Oh, okay. So when you take the legislation in totality of the Children's Act, you will be looking at that legislation and at particularly those areas which talk to abduction, cases of abduction. Or did I miss the point?
I think you missed the point. I don't know. Because now
let me try to rephrase. What I'm trying to say is the Hague is more confined to matters of abduction when it comes to children. Yes. Now the best interest it will be on all areas, I mean irrespective. But your research study, is it not you're not now going to confine the assessment or the look into on matters of abduction, even if it's on best interest, so that you can compare best interest insofar as abduction is concerned and the Hague? That's my question.
Okay, the Hague is very silent about the best interest.
No, it is. What I'm saying is, remember you are assessing whether the best interest and the balancing. Yes. So I'm saying the Hague is only talking to matters of abduction.
Yes.
Now I'm saying for your best interest of the child, wouldn't you rather than look at areas of abduction when it comes to best interest of the child, so that you can compare the matters of abduction as they are covered in the Child Act and as they are covered in the Hague? Am I making sense to you?
No.
Okay. Does the Child Act has anything to do with abduction? The best interest of the child? Is there a section, an area, a paragraph, the law that talks to how to deal with abduction as part of in the interest of the child?
Yes.
So I'm saying that is that area is the area that you are investigating, because it has to be, you have to investigate that against what the Hague says, but you are using the best interest on the one hand and you are using the Hague on the other hand, but you are comparing abductions in both situations.
I don't know if maybe okay, the convention is very rigid. It says return the child. It doesn't say
no. What I'm saying, sorry, please understand my angle first. And I'm saying we do understand what the convention wants. The convention is very strict on abduction, on matters of abduction.
Yes.
The Child's Act is broader than that. But I'm saying you're not going to look at the child, the best interest of the child on every aspect, because it will be there. You are comparing how the best interest is being exercised
in a
right?
matter. Yes.
No, how the best interest is being exercised insofar as abduction is concerned in both situations.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So then you are able to compare similar, apples to apples, just to use an expression that we sometimes use. You are then comparing, you take abduction as a criminal situation, like you are talking abduction, and you're asking the question, how do we deal with the child who's been abducted in the context of the best interest of the child?
Yes.
So basically you're asking the court, here is a child who has been abducted, and you are applying the best interest of the child principle. How do you do it? Then you also look at the Hague, and you say, the Hague says when a child is abducted, this is what it must be dealt with. So you look at the application of abduction as a common denominator.
Yes.
And the issue of abduction, both in the Hague and in the best interest of the child. So your research then is able to say, how do we apply the Hague Convention and the best interest of the child insofar as abduction is concerned? Of course, there are more areas that you can refer to, but in this case, you have narrowed it down to abduction.
Yes, that's what I'm going to be looking into. Only abduction.
That's what
from signatory countries. Applications that comes from signatory countries into our country. How do we?
You're not looking at the best interest generally, but specifically.
Specifically in terms of the abduction cases.
I got you. So, and then you want to see how it's been applied before and how it was now applied to the legislation in place.
Yes.
Could it be that then there were three regimes, if you like? There was the best interest, that is a standalone, a standard. You said there are standards, which may not have been applied consistently in my country. There is the Hague, which has been the convention of 1980s, somewhere there. Yes. And then there was the Child Act, which was not incorporating the best interest of the child. So you had three kind of environments that was dealing with the issues of the child insofar as abduction is concerned.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very interesting study. All right, now let's see, how are you going to collect data?
Like I've said earlier, I will be collecting data from previous case law, and as well as literature and from articles.
So you'll be using sources that are is it primary sources or is it secondary sources?
Primary sources.
So you'll be using primary sources
and secondary
in terms of cases that have been concluded, but you will be also relying on literature.
Yes.
Would you be talking to any human being to corroborate anything, or that should be sufficient?
That should be sufficient. I'm not going to
Okay.
be talking to anybody.
So basically, you are going to triangulate your data from cases, looking at the different periods with literature.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how you are going to triangulate the data. Because the
Yes.
question is, how did you triangulate data? Now you are able to answer that. That you are going to be using primary sources,
Yes.
and you will be using literature, but which is part of you triangulating the data.
Yes.
You write that in the methodology of your research report, okay?
Okay.
How do you then analyze your data? Now that you've collected it, it's there in front of you, you've checked literature, you're sitting with it, and it's qualitative. What then do you do? How are you going to analyze? What tool are you going to use, if any?
I haven't thought about
Or
that.
how did you put it in your proposal, the analysis? What did you say? Do you remember?
I don't know if maybe Prof, did I mention that I haven't submitted the proposal yet? Because I've just been allocated the supervisor last month. So remember I said that at the beginning that I haven't even submitted.
Yeah, well, it's too late now in the day. We're already here where we're asking about analysis. Well, you have not submitted it, but how do you envisage to submit, to analyze the data? You are sitting with case studies, you're sitting with literature in front of you now, so you need to make sense out of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so you will analyze the data. All what you're asking is whatever instrument you're going to use, you will then say, I have used this tool or this instrument or this method to analyze the data. There's a way to do it. So you need to state how you're going to do it. Because it's you collect data so you can analyze it, isn't it? Yes. So you'll then say,
I really, maybe you'll have to help me out there, because I honestly have never done this before, so I'm not even sure how I'm going to do it. I think I will get to learn to know how to do it as I progress. I'm not sure if I'm too late already, maybe.
Yeah, you just need to Google Atlas. As a university, they've got something called Atlas IT. I think it's available to you. You can also use just basic spreadsheet as well, by the way. Just as you get the information, you load it into that tool, then it will tell you what is emerging. Because what you want to do is to load information. It's like when you use an Excel spreadsheet. We have spoken about tools for data analysis, one of which is Atlas. Is it Atlas IT? I think it is called. If you Google it, UNISA has got it for you for free. You can use it for free. You can just play around with it. Because you see, qualitative data is quite rich. It's words, it's text, it's a whole lot, it's pictures. So it's quite a very involved process. So at least you must read. That's why you needed keywords, so that you can have guideline on what are you looking for.
Okay.
For example, on abduction, you may say abduction, what does there will be a definition of abduction. There might be varieties of abduction and whatever, but you are looking at a child, and you are looking at, because you are going to be using both the Hague and the child's, you might be moving between 18 and 16, remember?
Yes.
Because now where the child is 17 and 18, on the one hand, the best interest will apply, but on the other side, the Hague will not apply. So again, you need to be clear, what is your cutoff discussion? Because if you are going to compare periods, you need to make sure that what you are comparing is almost the same.
Okay.
So maybe in your case, you might then go up to 16 as well, so that you compare similar situations. So the definition in South Africa might say up to 18, but for the sake of your work where you are going to assess the Hague and the Act, you may actually say you're going to go to 16. What does that say? That says you're only going to look at data up to 16.
Okay.
So your definition therefore becomes easier, because you are acknowledging that there is a difference of the definition between a child as per the Hague and the child as per the Children's Act. But for the sake of your own study, You are saying you're going to confine yourself to children up to the age of 16. That then will make sense.
Okay.
Now that you will know who the child up to 16 is, you are not necessarily saying 17 and 18 are not. You are just saying because on the matters of abduction, the Hague, it will not apply. Therefore, you're confining your study to 16. So nobody will come and argue with you that, yeah, but there are also 17 and 18 who are children who you did not include. Basically, you are excluding them in your study. So it's a limit. You're doing what you call limitation and delimitation. So you're scoping your work to say, I'm aware, but I'm not going to worry about them. For now, I'm going to focus on children up to 16.
Okay.
All right. So let's give you time to drink water.
Oh, thanks.
You needed that, right?
Yes.
But thank you very much for sharing your case, because it's I hope the people on the platform were able to adjust their understanding of a report writing, because you are telling us what you're going to do, but I said as you are speaking, we need to look at it and say, as you write, you say, I have done this, I've looked at this, I've analyzed it this way, I've collected data this way. So basically that's what we're trying to achieve with this conversation. So, but thank you for sharing your situation with us, Senyan, and for your indulgence.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we were still discussing report, but I really don't want to bore you with technical issues, but a research report is a technical documentation of what you have done. Now, I tried, as I said, it was very difficult because it's almost like it's easy, but it can also be complicated. We spoke about the abstract last week, and we said you need to state in the abstract what is the aim, what was the aim, what was the sample, what was the instrument, the measurement instrument, what was the hypothesis, and what is the result and the generalization of all that. So that's very important in an abstract, but in a report, you have to put it in a lot more details. For example, you'll do an introduction. An introduction really is just to say, what is the background of your study? Now, here you write in full. When you are listening to Senyan, we're asking, why is it then that there is any need or the significance of this study? Why are we doing this? She says, no, from her understanding is that there are challenges or problems or issues relating to how, as a country, we are applying the Hague and the best interest of the child. You put in the introduction as in introducing the topic. So if I was not part of your year discussion and I was not part of your research methodology and stuff, you start from the beginning and write the story. So you tell me the story in a nutshell as to why are we doing this study? What is the context of this study? The background, that which sometimes sounds like the summary of everything. Why should I bother reading your study? There is an area of the significance of this study as well, because when you study, when you do your literature, when you do your research, you also want to add to the body of knowledge. So there are gaps, there are opportunities, and so on. So that's what you look at in the introduction. You then have the aims of the study. You do a study with an aim to achieve, or with a problem to solve, or with a concern to address, whatever it is that your study aims to do. Now, every proposal would have that. So you just need to say, what was the aim? Now, that's why a proposal is the first chapter and the report is the last chapter. Why? Because the proposal is the plan as to how you are going to do it. And the report is the last chapter as to how did you, it's almost like a menu. A proposal is like a menu. This is what I'm going to prepare. A report then is like, you have eaten the food. Now it's an evaluation from your customers as to how did they enjoy the food. So a report is then you are documenting your plan. You know, every area or every element of your research will have you know, that was the plan. This is what I've done. This is how I've gone through it, and so on and so on. So essentially, what you need to consider here is, because it is a plan, as we say, because it is a plan, you need to then say, how did you review literature? The literature review really talks to how much of the work that you have done is being supported by literature. You heard what Senyano was saying, that I'll also try to look at the literature in relation to my work. The sample, how was the sample selected? And obviously this talks to the whole issue around who was your population and how did you go about selecting the sample. So you are telling us, you are reporting back that my population was you know, students at this college who are all SRC and they are registered. This is, you are telling us, now you are reporting back, and this is how I have selected them. How did you collect data? The collection of data then talks to the instrument. For example, you're using an instrument to collect data. Is it a questionnaire? Did I interview people? Was it a focus group, semi-structured, whatever it is? So you indicate, I had an opportunity to identify 20 people and I interviewed 15 of them. I could not interview the 5 due to, but the 15 that I've sort of sampled and interviewed, maybe you've got the demographics, maybe you've got their ranks and levels, whatever it is that you have, you indicate. This is what you've done. Now, in the analysis, we expect you now to put it and say, this is how I have interviewed them, I recorded them, I transcribed, I did this, I did that. And when you then apply the tool, I've applied perhaps your quad, your SPSS, as we spoke about it, that statistical procedure, or you used coding, whatever that you used in your tool, you state, you know, this is what I've done to analyze. So we need to know, how did you analyze the data? What tool did you follow? What method did you apply? How did you apply that method? So you're stating there, you're documenting the process. Then you move into findings and you say, these are the findings, the significant the main findings. You know, the 20 people that I've spoken to, this is what they say, 10 of them or 8 of them or whatever. Now, because you already outlined to us how you came up to analyze, to do the analysis, then you are telling us these are then the findings from the 20 or the 300 or all those that you have spoken to, depending on what approach you are using. You then go into discussion, because you need to discuss the finding. What does it mean when people say the things that they say? So you can discuss. That is where you can also link your discussion with literature. What these people, what the participants are saying is supported or not supported by literature in the following way. So you just give us a discussion, and then you move to conclusion, then you do references. In the conclusion, really, you summarize how important this study is, and you make those recommendations. Some of these recommendations could be for future researchers, that yes, I looked at the Hague and the Children's Act, but maybe there are other areas that needs to be explored further by other researchers in future. Perhaps look at how or whether or not there is a provision for children over the age of 17 and 18 and so on. Whatever the recommendation you come up with, then you move into references. In the references, you need to be mindful of the fact that each of your supervisors or your guidelines will tell you which referencing method you apply. But remember, in the content already, you have been citing, you have been supporting your work with literature, you have been doing referencing correctly in the text. So at the end of it all those referencing now come at the end, and you've got the reference section. Before we finish off this few slides that I've prepared for you after the guideline, this is just guideline, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the alpha and the omega of it, but it's important for you to also in your study, in your report, to indicate Were you qualitative? Were you quantitative? And you motivate. You explain why you were qualitative. Although it may sound like it's a repetition of the proposal, it has to be done. There's nothing wrong in sounding like you're repeating the proposal. Because remember, now you are writing on what you have done. Now, just for completeness, I want us to look at a collection method. Remember I said, when you are writing your report, you're going to say, how was the data collected? You need to outline the instrument that you used to employ, that you used in the data collection. When you come to the data analysis method, you're going to say, how did you handle the data? This talks to your, those who of you are doing also interviews, including even if you're not doing interviews, like you are doing what Senyano was saying. You also have to explain, how did you select the periods and the process itself? So that there's a methodology to that. And remember, there's an issue around recording, but also transcription of the recordings. You need to indicate, how did you do that? You know, you recorded, how did you record, and how did you transcribe? How soon did you do that? There are those who said, immediately after the interview, I transcribe. Others would say, I do the interviews, I finish all of them, then I transcribed afterward. And then there's also issues around sorting out the data. This is more in the qualitative environment, because when you sort out those data, you then start sort of sorting the data, but also now developing a range of categories that you are reporting on. Now, findings. The findings, as we said earlier, note that what is found in a qualitative study are always findings. They are not results. So those are findings. Results are, in a quantitative study, you'll find results because, for example, when you ask questions, people will be giving you direct answers. So remember that there's a difference between findings and results. The overarching research question of your study should guide you. Remember, when you do research, you've got this overarching question. The question which in some instances talks to what we're hearing, assessing, if we were to use the example we had earlier on, is to assess the best interest of the child legislation in the context of the Hague Convention. So you are juxtaposing the two, the act, the domestic law, and the international law. So that's your overarching question, and therefore your findings should talk to that. This also reminds us that there is this element that we talk about of the units of analysis, that your analysis is must and always be based on who and what is being studied. And therefore, when you make findings, you make findings on who or what is being studied. And then earlier on, we said there must also be discussions. Now you've got your analysis, you've got your findings or your results, and then you've got the discussion. The discussion will, if links are made to previous research, for example, you may look at some sort of critical debate is offered, because you need to tell us, you are the researcher, you are the one who understands what goes on there. So it might also be decided that a separate discussion section is not required. So maybe having looked at what you have, you may or may not have a discussion section, but it's always better to have a discussion just so you guide the reader of your or those to whom the research is intended to assist. There are issues around ethical consideration. Remember, we don't know whether your research got ethical clearances and so on. So it's important to state that in line with the ethical standards and consideration, your research was approved, and so on and so on. That this information may sound really not important, but it is extremely crucial for somebody who's reading your research report so that they can follow and actually use the totality of it, knowing that all of it or some of it has been approved ethically. So ethical clearance, it's everything in research. Then you may also look at your conclusion. I won't tell you what conclusion will do, but it is here at the conclusion that you may summarize your findings and you may suggest applications of those findings. So, for example, where you're making suggestions and recommendations, such applications should be realistic, for example, and you should not make attempt. There should be no attempt to extrapolate beyond the data. So essentially what you're doing is you are not going to tell us that this beyond the data that you are working on. So you don't extrapolate. So meaning you don't go beyond what you have worked on in your recommendations. It is, of course, not possible to generalize from qualitative data. So if you have been working on qualitative data, which the majority of you are on a qualitative approaches, it is not going to be very easy, if not impossible, to generalize, because you can only generalize, remember, if and when your sample that you worked on was only representative of the population. So because you are working on a qualitative data, we don't expect you to generalize. As much as we say you need to be careful not to extrapolate your data beyond, your research beyond the data that you're working with. So if you're only working with issues around children and the Hague, rather focus on that, because if you are now going to generalize on the fact that, yeah, well, there was a delay in all legislation, now you might actually be venturing into an area that, it might not be advisable for you as a research. So you stick in your lane, basically. Then you look at the referencing. Now, if you have been doing referencing throughout the document, the computers are able to do these things for you lately. So they're quite smart. There's different ways of referencing. So you need to remember that at the end, you're now doing referencing. There's an APA referencing, there's a Chicago referencing, there's a Harvard. So just be careful and be mindful of the fact that in your own study, you are already guided on how to do reference. So you shouldn't do a combination of referencing. One moment is API, the next moment is Harvard, is Chicago. It has to be one uniform, consistent referencing that you're applying. So once you start applying one, you must stick to that referencing in totality. I thought let's deal with this first before we could start engaging on other examples that we may have. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, here is really documenting all the hard work that you've been working on, all the proposal discussions with the chapter 1. It was going to, now it's done. So you're just documenting what you've done. As I said, even observations can be covered in here, where you say, although it's not necessarily was not part of what you thought will happen, now that you faced it, you sort of raise it and you speak about it, because those things matter in research. As a researcher, and if you are also doing qualitative, even non-verbal cues and things that people do whilst you are interviewing them, some of them are telling and very, very important. It's not just the question that you're asking that matter. It is also the question that you're not asking, or the way in which the participants are behaving, especially where participants are involved, and especially if it's in a qualitative study. Now, I did ask Sinyano also about triangulation. I asked her, how are you going to triangulate your data? Now, she said she would look at case studies, decided case studies, case laws, and literature. Now, you also have to indicate that in your research, that how did you triangulate? Now, if you have spoken to people, You've read documents like your case studies, where you did case studies or case laws. And not only did you interview people, but then you also look at it from a literature point of view or reports. You are able to say to us, I used different ways of triangulating. I mean, let's use an example for South Africans. If you look at the Madanga Commission right now, not only are they triangulating data, but they're actually, interviewing people physically as well. Now, what happens is where there is a support of pictures, they will bring pictures to corroborate the information that is coming through. But also they will interview people to say, are you aware of this picture? What do you make out of it? But they want people to comment. They don't tell them what it is. They ask them, what is your understanding? They are also, that is part of the process that we are talking about, that this is a triangulation of data using, sources just other than hearing from or seeing from, getting it from one source. So all that is what you also need to indicate in your report. How did you triangulate the data at your disposal? So, ladies and gentlemen, this then concludes the understanding of the report that you will be required to write, especially most of you will be doing the research. I don't know whether people on the mini dissertation are expected to, but for those of you who are going to be interviewing, analyzing, collecting, sampling, and all that, you will be required to report. And this is just one way of showing you the guidelines on how to compile a research report. There's a difference between compiling a quantitative and a qualitative report, but both of them are actually reports, and you have to outline all those processes. Now, because a majority of you are not doing quantitative, I thought it will not make sense to have the two sets of reports, to discuss. But they are not fundamentally different. It's just that, when you are using a data collection, you will then indicate which one was it quantitatively and qualitatively. Analysis, which one was it quantitatively and qualitatively. The hypothesis, it will be more from the quantitative. The findings and the results, findings will be on your qualitative, and then the conclusions, and of course with a recommendation. Referencing is a referencing style. You have to apply the style that you've used, and you get to learn about referencing during your period of literature review, because when you do literature review, mainly you are beginning to, amongst others, to use to apply referencing that is relevant, but also to avoid plagiarism, which we spoke about, academic fraud, where you don't acknowledge and recognize your sources of information.
Prof, thank you. And thank once more again to all of you colleagues. Please drop in an email, colleagues, early next year to find out in regard to our workshops, colleagues. Your support is always appreciated. With that said, colleagues, I'm not sure if ever you have any other further things you'd like to send to inquire in terms of the workshops, or if ever you'll want a one-on-one, but we're almost done for this year, but still you have my email. You can email me. I'll be able to email you back, colleagues, just to give you feedback when you feel you have some challenges. Before we can close, colleagues, please just email and we'll see how we can help, colleagues. Thank you, colleagues. We'll meet again in 2026. I hope the grace of God will be with all of you, colleagues, and we will be able to submit in terms of your proposal, and may God grant you all the wisdom in terms of your work, and we hope even the recordings will be able to help you, colleagues. Thank you and good night.